Good evening. My name is Shelley. I'm one of the nutrition providers here at Vitality Health Matrix. And tonight we are going to do a little bit of myth busting. One of my favorite myths to bust is that sometimes we think that turmeric and barberry and some of these things that we're doing for our gut are just for our gut. And I'm here to let's talk a little bit about how the things that we're doing for our gut also directly benefit our mood. So let me share my screen with you. Sorry, it's a little awkward to jump into all these things, but I love having some visuals. Um, so that you can see my present button. Sorry. You can kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about. So there was some fabulous research there's lots of fabulous research that's being done now around diet and exercise. There's exercise and the gut and how it's directly impacting our mood and our brain. But let's talk, and there's so much we could cover tonight, but I want to keep it short and sweet. So let's talk about a little bit why it's so important to be aware of that gut-brain connection. You've probably heard that there's a gut-brain connection, but maybe you've never been fully introduced to why it's so important. So have you ever heard of the enteric nervous system and the ENS? It is comprised of about 300 to 600 million neurons, depending on the size and age and sex and health of an individual. So I have here the average of about 500 million neurons. And those neurons all live inside of our GI tract. They live in our digestive system. And they are constantly sending messages to our brain. Our brain is picking up messages from these neurons all day long, and vice versa. Our brain is sending messages down through this enteric nervous system to our gut. And it's getting the messages initially from, or getting the enteric nervous system is getting messages from the brain, but it's also getting messages from the microbiome. So these thousands, millions, and billions of bacteria that live all along the inside of our GI tract, from our mouth all the way down to the bottom to our anus, is full of these neurons. And so they're constantly talking. And this enteric nervous system is important because it doesn't decide whether something is good or bad. It doesn't say, oh, I'm not going to send this message because it's not a good message, or it's from an unfavorable bacteria, or I'm not going to send this message because she's just stressed, it's not real, or something like that. It's just this super highway that's always going, sending messages back and forth between the gut and the brain and other places in the body as well, but big time between the gut and the brain. And that means if you have an overgrowth of a specific, type of bacteria in your gut because you got sick and you had to take an antibiotic, and the antibiotic wiped out a lot of healthy bacteria, and then all you wanted after you got better is ice cream or French fries or sweet things. That's all you could do is keep down like little sips of sweet tea or something like that. The bacteria that replaced that healthy bacteria that was wiped out by the antibiotics, that comes in, it doesn't just wipe out healthy bacteria, it wipes out all of it, right? It wipes out infections and unhealthy bacteria. And so as the microbiome is trying to restructure and regrow, when those things happens, if we're not making a really thoughtful choice about what we're putting in our bodies, we can accidentally begin to encourage growth of unfavorable bacteria. You've probably heard of Candida, and maybe you've heard of one called Firmicutes. There are some out there that actually thrive. They live off of things like sugar and fried foods and fatty foods and processed foods. It's just the way our world works. There's always something to eat, and the different food sources, and ferment the different food sources that we put in our body. And so if those neurons are picking up signals from bacteria that are screaming, I need fatty food, I need fried food, I need ice cream, I need sugar, I need chocolate, I need something like that. And that's the signal your brain's going to get. And it's going to feel like, oh my goodness, if I don't get a donut today, I'm going to die. Not to be dramatic, but that can often explain some of these like really intense cravings that you're like, I don't know why I need this, but I just do. And I'm not going to feel better until I get it. And so that's one of the things. And the same thing for like, if you've ever been in a situation where you're maybe going to give a speech, or you're going in for an interview, or you're in a really stressful situation, and all of a sudden your gut goes crazy. You either have you've got to go to the bathroom, you've got intense diarrhea or something crazy, or lots of gas, or just the opposite, like you've been under a lot of stress for a long time and maybe your bowels have just completely backed up. And that can also be the result of communication between your brain through this enteric nervous system and to our gut, sending it, we're not safe, it's dangerous, don't let anything go. Or, oh my gosh, we're in big trouble, empty everything out. And so this little enteric nervous system is really important. But one of the things that we use quite frequently here at Vitality Health is berberine. Now, berberine is not an herb per se. Berberine is a active component of several different herbs that are well known. Every single traditional type of medicine in the world, whether it's Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Western herbalism, anywhere you go, it has an herb, at least one herb that they have used for thousands of years that has berberine in it. It's a well-known, well-loved, highly therapeutic piece of many different herbal traditions. So it could be Oregon grapefruit, it could be philodendron, it could be European barberry, it can be golden seal. Maybe you've heard of any of those. Those all one of their active ingredients or active components of those herbs is berberine. And so we hear a lot about berberine, but it's not actually the herb itself. And berberine has lots of different potential benefits to the gut. We know it as a help for blood sugar, right? It comes in and it helps to regulate blood sugar. It helps to support increase sensitivity to insulin and glucose and those types of things. But one of the ways that it does that is it goes in and helps to regulate the gut. It actually stops the fermenting process in the lining of the gut. So certain bacteria, like these unfavorable bacteria that thrive off of sugars and things like that, often won't continue to grow under berberine, the regular use of berberine. And so sometimes we can see diarrhea because when we're using high doses of berberine, sometimes we're killing off a lot of that bacteria. That's not a bad thing. Most of the time we can just slow it down, pull back from the berberine a little bit and then add it back in slowly and allow the gut to reestablish, and it can be a really good thing. It also helps to bring down inflammation. It helps with mast cell stabilization. So mast cells are big protective cells in our body that when they get the signal that something nearby them is not friendly, they can degrade all of a sudden and begin to cause, and it basically they self-destruct in a way to protect the things around them, because if they kind of come in and come in contact with something that is considered problematic in the system or inflammatory in the system, these cells are programmed to degrade. And then, but oftentimes that can happen in a way that's problematic. And when we get too many of them happening all at once, then we see allergic reactions, mast cell kind of histamine kind of issues and stuff. And berberine is one of the things that will help to stabilize that mast cell so that it doesn't degrade and it can still do its work without having that cascade of reactivity that happens in the body. But it also helps to stabilize the nervous system, especially the enteric nervous system. And there's some really fascinating research that is in process right now where they are seeing the benefits, mental health benefits of people taking berberine and how it's impacting their ability, just their mental health, their depression scores, anxiety scores, and those types of things. And it's being directly tied back to how it's impacting their gut, which is really cool. Let's talk a little bit about turmeric. Turmeric gets a lot of press here in the United States for being anti-inflammatory, great for joints, right? And that turmeric, it likewise been around for thousands of years. It is a mainstay of the Ayurvedic tradition. It is you'll notice that it's got that same kind of yellow color to it. And that always gives us a hint that this is an anti-inflammatory, deeply clearing, deeply detoxifying herb that's also going to have some benefits for the gut. So it has some similar benefits to berberine, where it's going to be able to prevent some of the more problematic gut bacteria from fermenting. It acts a little bit differently on mast cells, but it does have some stabilization support. And it comes in and helps to strengthen many parts of the digestive system. It's considered a very, if in Ayurvedic traditions, it's always served with a fat like coconut or butter, like ghee, or some sort of a milk. And it's generally served with a little bit of black pepper to make it more bioavailable. Now, if we don't serve it with that black pepper, that means that it goes to the liver, which is great. Um, if we want it to be more bioavailable, widely available to the body, that's why we add the black pepper. So then it can go into the tissues and help support things like knees, joints, tendons, all those types of things, and bring down inflammation in other parts of the body. So there is a time and a place for us to use turmeric without black pepper. You may have heard, oh, never take turmeric without black pepper. And that's not the case. And there are definitely some times where we want to be giving the liver extra support. And we do that by just using turmeric and doing it with a little bit of fat. And it's often served in Ayurvedic. Well, traditionally it's always served with a fat and a sugar. So like honey. And it's because it's such a powerfully drying and anti-inflammatory herb that they learned and believed and continue to teach in the Ayurvedic tradition that it needs to be taken in with some sort of fat that will help to nourish the tissues, and a sweetness to help to also do some nourishing and benefit the tissues. And that way we balance it out so it's not so drying. And we find here in the United States that we love to just slap things in capsules, right, and take copious amounts of them. And then I find people to get a lot of relief from that at the beginning of their journey, and then they stop getting relief because they begin to get additional pain because they're so dry. And we balance that out by using things like butter and ghee or coconut milk and honey and those types of things. So, but it also has been shown in studies to improve mental health, to help relieve depressive symptoms. This one is more about the gut, or excuse me, about liver health and taking some of the load off of the liver and how that helps to improve our body's ability to metabolize and to create the hormones that it needs in order to process mood and stabilization. Um, so there you go. Let's grab one more. And then, sorry, this isn't an advertisement. I don't even think they even make this type of fish oil anymore. But fish oil is another one to be thinking about because there are some special pro mediators in there that come in and do a really good job of wiping out inflammation at a cellular level. So at times when we are seeing a lot of cellular dysfunction, a lot of inflammation, a lot of fatigue, headaches, skin stuff, omegas can be a really powerful thing. And they also have been shown to greatly impact mental health. So there's my myth busting for you today, that we don't, that some of the things that we take for one thing only do one thing. Most of them do multiple things. And because of the way our body is so connected, right? Because of the enteric nervous system, because of the nervous system in general, because of how our gut impacts everything along the way, and how our brain is constantly in contact with so many of the pieces, so many of our different systems. Like our brain really needs omegas in order to stay healthy. And so, of course, a healthy brain is going to be a lot more able to stabilize our body in other ways, our nervous system as well. So we can talk more about this in your individual sessions if you've got some specific questions around how it might be like dosing or things that would be most appropriate for you. But I hope that it will give you a little bit more confidence in incorporating some of the botanicals that we have, or some of the herbal formulas that we have here for you. And don't be afraid to reach out and ask for some additional support if you're needing some, if you are interested in adding more of these botanical nutritional types of therapies to help support you in your journey. So thank you for joining me tonight. And until next time, be well.